Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're tuning in from whatever part of the planet. I'm Rick Levine from the NAUMD and want to welcome you to today's webinar, which is The Future of Fit, How Augmented Reality Can Assist Uniform Purchasing. And I'm very excited about this. Today we have Romel Wallen and Maya Lopez from a company called FitMatch, who's going to educate us on a variety of topics related to sizing and augmented reality. Super jazzed about that. I am going to do a quick commercial as I do on our webinars for the NAUMD. We are the Network Association of Uniform Manufacturers and Distributors. We are a global network of companies. As an association, we offer up news. You can opt into our Tuesday emails with industry news. We offer network access to all of our members. We have an annual in-person event. You can get info on that at naumd.com/convention. It's coming up this year on the East Coast of the United States in Reston, Virginia, suburb of DC. And we're looking forward to that as the world returns to some type of normalcy. So again, I want to welcome Romel and Maya to thanks for coming on today and talking with us.
Thank you for having us. We're super excited.
Good.
Very excited to be here. Thank you.
You know, when we were talking about doing this, and I've looked at what FitMatch is up to, but I gotta say I'm still and I'm a geek, right? I'm like into like techie stuff, but what is augmented reality? How do you even explain that to, explain it like I'm 5, as they say, right?
Well, I'm glad that you said that. I'm a geek too. I feel at home. I'm going to start by sharing my screen and giving you guys some visual aids as we talk along. So great starter. Great, came out of the gate great. So augmented reality can feel like a really loaded term, right? Like when I think of augmented reality, I try to go back to what I know personally. So I came up during like the dawn of social media. So for me, when I think AR, I think Snapchat filters, I think Instagram filters. So I use AR almost every day. And I think you guys would probably all be surprised to know that you also use AR quite often. But technically speaking, AR is some kind of enhanced way that you see the world. So that technological enhancement, it could be visual, which it commonly is. It can be auditory, and it can even sometimes be olfactory.
I did not realize that. So, but I mean, that's like metaverse sort of, world creation you're talking about, I guess, right? But
yeah.
From a practical standpoint, at least, looking based on what we're looking at right now, we're talking about it strictly from a 3-dimensional object, which is our body, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so how does that help? Why is this, how does the AR help the uniform industry in that sense?
Yeah, well, great question. I think AR is going to be integral in the uniform business. FitMatch specifically uses AR in order to create a holistic view of a person in order to generate the matches that fit them the best. So whether that's their uniform or it's their vest. And an example I'm going to show you right now, we have Dina, who's a police officer, who's using the FitMatch platform in order to find a solution to her quite uncomfortable and unsafe vest if it's ill-fitting. So as we use FitMatch and encompass her, we're generating an AR avatar. Those little point clouds that you see being generated will eventually become this avatar to the right, which we then use to generate her best matches for her uniform and for her vest. So she's going to step away in a second and you're going to see how exciting that is. Oh, she didn't step away. She's coming. So yeah, that's how we can exactly use AR in your uniform space.
Well, okay, what did I just see? So it captured her and then held an image of that.
Yeah.
So that's now what? Now that's something that, I mean, how do you determine the measurements from that?
So that's actually a point cloud image, Rick. So that image you're seeing is basically, that looks like dots. What it is those dots represent body measurements, and which the LiDAR technology has gotten your body. So essentially, no, we then take that and you find, which we'll get into shortly, actually, in terms of our methodology. But yeah, that's what you're seeing. Those dots represent what we call point cloud measurements of the body. So it's totally sort of secure as well. Doesn't leave the phone, and yeah, as we said, secure. No unique identifying feature.
All right. So you're saying that because there's this, mythology about some of this tech that's been coming out in the past couple of years of privacy concerns, and because you've just done this scan, and now I'm thinking of Jurassic Park. Now you can build a human because you have this scan. But how is this different though than the half dozen other sizing tech solutions that this industry's been hearing from over the last couple of years then?
Yeah, great question. We actually are well aware of this is somewhat a crowded space. If I were to say what truly sets us apart, though, Rick, is in terms of our secret sauce, if you will, is the fact that we do body-to-body matching instead of body-to-garment. So for example, this unique methodology was developed by our head data scientist, Dr. JP. What she found during years of study at Cornell University is that shape is actually the most important determinant of fit. And so fit match is the only fit technology that's actually using the shape rather than standard garment measurements, the factory measurements, to determine your best fit. So while the other fit technologies are just putting body measurements versus, as I said, sizing charts, we're really going one step further, and we're taking our database of bodies and matching a human towards that.
Database of bodies.
Yeah.
So, but it go a little further, please, so I get it.
I thought you might.
How is that different than if I take a picture of myself from the front and the back, and they then are calculating from a two-dimensional, and you're calculating from a three-dimensional? Am I saying it back right? Is that, I mean, how is that different in?
Yeah, well, so yeah, we like to say the phrase internally a lot. This is a 3D solution to what we know is a 3D problem. So essentially, what we're doing is we have conducted tons of tests on human fitting. So we've done fittings with humans, real bodies of different shapes. We also have 3D avatars of different, even more shapes than bodies we were able to test. So now imagine all of that is in a data matrix, like we call it, which represents different body shapes. So when Rick yourself comes now and we get a new body, in order to match you to your uniform, instead of saying, Rick, well, you're 5'11", 160 pounds, typically that frame fits into the mediums. We're saying, we're going to find your digital fit twin amongst our data matrix, which is to say, the closest body that has the same shape as Rick. And based on our knowings, because we've done robust testing on the back end, based on our knowings of that digital fit twin, we're able to make a super accurate recommendation to you based on our knowings of the fit twin. So that's essentially the big difference.
Oh. So for this to be and by the way, everyone, this is somewhat different than we've done other webinars where Maya and Romel wanted this to be more of a conversation with me. And yes, they've got these pre-prepared slides, but that's a conversation. And I would like you all to jump into the conversation at any point. You don't have to wait until a Q&A session at the end. There's a chat tool. You can toss something in. And I see someone also typed in, we thought of it at the same time about how is this different than other sizing solutions. There's also a Q&A feature down below in your tools if you'd rather do it sort of as a question answer, whatever you're comfortable with. But jump in anytime anyone has a question. And so going back to then that match, so you're saying that you're matching it to your fit twin. So for a manufacturer all right, so in our world, we have, what's called a uniform program. So a uniform program is for a company-specific set of garments that all 5,000 employees wear at this company. We'll call it, ABC Hotel. And ABC Hotel has this uniform program. And so are you saying you go in then and you'll then take all of the garments and all the sizes and put people in them, and so that you can create these fit twins? Or is it fit twins based on you've already, measured 1 million people wearing different garments and you're basing it on that?
So it's a little bit of both, actually. So to work with ABC, we would ask for some information on their garments. So like the sizing charts, to get some level of information as much as we can on how the sizing mechanisms of each size work and each style works. What we refer to as style blocks, I won't get too deep into that. Okay, so we essentially take that, we do conduct testings, fittings. We probably take a subset of their staff or not and do some fittings. But we also do most of our fittings in a digital way, in a 3D way. And so, which represents even more shapes and bodies. And so now when John Brown from ABC wants to make their order drop, we can then automatically find what their closest shape is to our tons of thousands of shapes that we have, as you said, with our partnerships on the retail level, as well, we would have to the shapes we would have conducted and created for this project specifically. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I think that this, our industry is familiar with, with that as a conceptual way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Someone's asking on the chat a somewhat related question, which is I posed it of, we've got ABC Hotel and they have this unique set of garments, but someone's saying, if there's a variety of manufacturers involved in the program or the purchase, and their grading of their garments could be different. There's nuances to fits. How does it work then across multiple manufacturers and brands and preferences?
Well, that's precisely why we exist, Rick, because in the fashion space, apparel retail space, it's the same problem. When I go to a Gap, a pair of jeans fits me differently at the Gap than it does, say, Macy's or DSTL. So the reality is not that we're standardizing it, but we're personalizing it. So we're using data to instruct, so that we can make more instructive matches, so more informed matches, and then all the way upstream, the manufacturer can make informed decisions on make. And so that's what we use to actually make the match.
To make it simpler, I would say that your digital twin does all the hard work of trying on clothes for you. So they put in the hours of going to the different places and trying on the jeans and it doesn't fit or whatever the case may be. You're just getting the benefit of their hard work.
So do we as an industry need to, we have to build our version of that database in essence, or with our brands, so right. If we have, X number of brands in our industry do we need that database for this to be effective, or there's, I imagine, lots of overlap?
Well, I think so. So to the previous question about the multiple manufacturers, we would take the sizing chart from each manufacturer and understand how they do their grading rules, And then based on that, factor that into our algorithms and our matrix. So we would then be able to know, identify that this shape may be a medium in this manufacturer's style block, but fits as a large in the other manufacturer's style block. So in other words, we would almost be in this automated standardization of all those different choices. So that's what I wanted to emphasize. So that's how it would work in terms of multiple manufacturers and how we'd be able to seamlessly match your staff with inventory, even if you're using multiple manufacturers. And of course, for us, it's a big play in terms of data, in terms of save, in terms of waste. A lot of waste in the industry and overproduction, and that would eliminate that.
All right, so that's an interesting point. Is we talk a lot in the sizing discussions about what effect it has for the individual purchaser, and of course, at the end of the day, that's the experience that we're trying to improve. But it seems like you're gathering a lot of data. I don't know where the equation gets defined of big data, but like what makes it big versus regular data. But you're rolling a lot of data up into one place. I mean, how can the uniform industry benefit from all of this data being collected? Is this something that then merchandisers, inventory, forecasters, grading, pattern makers? I mean, how do you, oh, there you go. Okay. I think you get my question.
Interesting you asked that, because that's the most, Rick, that's the most, I'd say, what we hang our hat on as a company. For us, that's the big play here, data. We're a data-driven company, and we know that the best tech decisions are data-driven decisions. And so we like to talk about increased efficiencies in terms of for our partners. So, all the way upstream, we talked about the manufacturing for reducing waste in production. Inventory planning is something we've heard a lot, and order allocation, we've heard a lot in the space from talking to different players. Returns is something that impacts some more than others, but that's all part of, if we're giving you and personalizing the size and perfecting fit, then that's eliminating returns on the back end. So really and truly, efficiencies across the supply chain as well. And then of course, we know this is in commerce. If the user is satisfied in the experience, then they're engaging more. And if they're engaging more, it means that they're probably spending more and more often. So we feel it's a really great, in terms of our technology, it's not just a cost saver. It's not just making it more efficient, but also a really, really valuable growth tool, as we understand the market is really fragmented. We understand the low margins in the uniform space. But what if you're able to go to your clients and say, we can make you become more efficient. Here's how you save money while improving your user experience for your customers, for your staff. So that's really, what we hang our hat on. And all of that is driven by the data we're collecting on the front end, which we feel really, really proud of.
Yeah, I think overall data is like the most important point that we have to offer.
So how do you inform me then as the uniform provider? How is that data circling back to me to do the things you're talking about, right? Like reducing waste in my design.
Mm-hmm.
I want to put you on the spot, as non-uniform designers, but how do I do that?
Yes.
Go ahead. You wanted to go ahead, Maya?
I was going to say that I think it depends on what your specific pain point is. We do work in tangential fields where we know in terms of inventory and supply chain waste, if you can figure out, let's say, what category you don't need to provide for, you no longer have to order for that category. So let's say you need to provide t-shirts for your whole company. If from the data that you gather from your fit match fittings, oh wow, I have no employees that are size medium. you no longer have to waste money stocking 500 shirts that are size medium. So it's really like a white label situation, like whatever your specific pain point is, FitMatch can provide data that can help you increase efficiency across whichever platform you're suffering in.
But I would say that that's more detail. Thank you, Maya, for that. And then the short answer to that, Rick, is what we've shared with our partners is what we call data dashboards. So real-time, amalgamated, sectored, averaged data all the way upstream to. So it just depends on the scope of engagement that we have with the partner. Is that something they want? Some partners don't produce; they just order. And so that data would be really about efficiency on the order management and allocation side for them. As Maya said, we understand, especially in this new world where supply chain issues, it takes a lot longer. So waste none becomes even more detrimental to the preparation. And so what we're saying is let's get ahead of that with data and be able to make these decisions ahead of time rather than being reactive.
You know, I got to push back on you guys a little bit on that one because, like, I would already know that nobody's ordering media. You know, as an extreme example, I would already know nobody's ordering as much of this size as we thought when, you know, I look the next quarter. So, you know, we're in a unique space where this is a have to buy situation, right? I don't have to worry about, forecasting a brand new product as often as I need to worry about forecasting, you know, usage by how many mediums will I need per 500 employees of this particular, you know. So it's still a disconnect in my head of, you know, how we reduce waste from the data. I thought you guys were going to talk more about, you know, construction and, you know, that based on these 3D scans, you can now give us a different picture of the universe of, you know, this bell curve of body type shapes.
Sure. That
or am I speaking science fiction?
No. That's you hit it there. That's on the practical level, on the garment level, yes. All the way up to the manufacturer, we'll be able to show them based on the thousands of different body shapes we have. Actually, we'll be able to help them design for those sizes rather than averaged mannequins. That we'll be able to actually say to the manufacturer, say to the producer, well, this is for this style. This is the average shape, or this is how shapes relate to this style. So therefore, in this part of the body, maybe it needs to be bigger than others. It just depends really on, obviously, the garment. It does depend on the garment a lot, but conceptually, we're able to take the product, take our measurements, take all the data we've gathered from different shapes, and then through our 3D draping, understand how it fits each styles, and then be able to then say to the producer, you know, that style has a flaw, if you will, in the bust, in the waist, or maybe you should be making it more like this over time. Ultimately, it's all connected to waste, as I said, and return. Yeah, the staff has to order. So yes, maybe it depends. If obviously law enforcement, for example, is a lot more important on that level. But obviously there are certain categories of uniforms where it's less important, where someone could live with the fact that they're wearing a medium shirt and they're not necessarily a medium. But what we're more sort of referring to are the hard to fit categories within uniforms where fit matters. And what we're saying is our data absolutely can instruct the make of garments in that profile.
Yeah, when you know more about someone's body, you can make the garment more efficient. Like if you take the scan of Dina, the police officer, one of her major concerns that she expressed was the way the vest fits when she's standing and the way the vest fits when she's sitting down. And this can even be like a safety issue when it comes to a bulletproof vest. So FitMatch can provide you a more holistic view of her body. When she moves, when she's standing, what does that garment need to be designed? Like specifically, how should it be designed to keep her the most safe and be the most comfortable?
Right. And I'll say lastly, one of the things our algorithm looks at is the relationship, well, how the garment impacts. And we shouldn't probably go too deep into that because we have experts on our team who could speak a lot better on this. But one of the things we look at is how the garment impacts the shape of the body, the tissues of the body, which is to say, when I throw on a tight t-shirt, how does that impact the muscles in my arms, the muscles in my chest? And that's what we call, so in other words, we're able to then tell over time shape and in motion, shape discrepancies and different shape movements. And that, as Maya said, is critical in some areas over others. And it's one thing we did find in talking to law enforcement. It is absolutely critical in terms of the relationship between the belt and the armor and the officer sitting versus standing. And all of those things we were able to use 3D and our AR and our data to be able to instruct now. And so we were excited to get into that space. So yeah, really, that's how it really works in terms of data, relationship between data and garment.
So I'm really perked up at one of them that I had not heard you mention in any of our previous conversations. And that is the concept that you could roll data back on the wear and tear, if you will, on the performance of, so we're not just talking about fit, we're talking about fit over time.
Sure.
And how that textile behaves relative to the job function, which is a huge consideration in our industry for all kinds of reasons. Wearer comfort, obviously, safety next or before wearer comfort likely. And then of course the sustainability of the product. How long will that product actually last? After washings, after usage, etc. So there you've probably got our industry's attention if that's an area that you can help with. So a couple of people have asked other questions, which is interesting. So, I mean, are there manufacturers in our space that you're already tied to, that you've done some of this data work and body typing with?
Well, actually, we are, as I said, we're talking to different players in the space. So we're talking to this company, which Maya will talk through the video in a sec. School uniforms, that's in the area within the uniform space, we have great interest to us. We're actually building out a product. We've built a core base of it. We've done testing to 90% levels of accuracy so far, which is to say we're matching kids with their uniforms for school at a 90% level. Now we're in the final phase of product testing to be able to launch this. While we're talking to principals, we're talking to all the main stakeholders. Parents so far have absolutely loved this, the ease at which this makes their job now. Previously, they're doing something that they would have taken days to do in minutes. Of course, from a manufacturer standpoint, they're just jumping through the roof with terms of these logistical and efficiencies that they can improve on. And quite frankly, it's a very competitive space, and it's an edge for them. So Maya will talk through this video. This is an example of one player. We've talked about law enforcement, that we're talking to others as well. Maya?
Yeah. So as Romel said, this is our school uniform partner. In this video, you're going to see our lovely model, Ashton, and his mom, who's going to generate, again, an AR scan by encircling his body, again, creating those point cloud dots, and then his avatar is going to be created. And within minutes, she's able to decide, okay, this is my son's size this semester. These are the garments that I need to buy him. And she expressed, this is something that used to take her days to do. And now within minutes, she can do this with ease. And her son also said, Mom, I don't really like going to these fittings with you.
Who does?
They both get something out of it. And I think it's really exciting to see this live in action.
Right. So importantly, Rick, imagine this. So we're about to launch this product in this space, and you're talking about a product that kids love, parents love. It's practical for parents. The schools, the principals often are responsible for the logistics of the fittings of the kids. They absolutely love this. It's a dream for them. And then finally, who is our client is the actual manufacturer. the producer of this, and they actually love it because it saves them money. We just spoke about all the efficiencies all the way upstream. So how often do we have a solution that all players can really say it improves their life? And, you know, you talk about some of the industry quotes we were seeing on the screen now, many of which are from talking to players. And, you know, as you mentioned before, Rick, it's if the uniform isn't doing the job function, and especially as it relates to safety, that's an area we're really, really, really excited to come in and start using our data technology to improve.
Yeah, so these are other testimonials from people that have tested our technology. And I'm not going to read them all, obviously, but the overall vibe is that people are really excited, not only about like the ease and the efficiency that we can provide, but also about the increase in safety. So Romel spoke with Point Blank as well as police officers across the country. And this is like a really, really exciting time to be talking about this.
Yeah, I mean,
impressive. Yeah, no, that's awesome. So one nuance, and this relates actually to a question someone was asking. Well, no, I have two questions. Is that this isn't on-demand garment construction, right? This is doing what we just witnessed with that child needing a school uniform, and then it drops me into a predefined alphanumeric sizing. It's not that now I'm going to cut, trim, and make, you know, a school uniform, right? Okay. Right. Now, in both of the videos you showed us, someone is circling the person who's to be measured. Alternately, can I just set my phone on the fireplace mantle and turn myself?
I like that word, Rick, ultimately, because we're working on it. We're working on it. Obviously, you know, with all technology, it's iterations. And what we're not prepared to do is to compromise, because that's what we have often seen in the space, which is why no solution has really scaled and become, as the word says, a solution. So it's important for us not to compromise accuracy for the newness of it and the coolness of it, or UX. So let me shorten the answer by saying it's something that we're rapidly working on, as we describe as self-scanning.
So right now you do have to have somebody help you. Oh,
what we call that is friend mode, but we are working on self-scanning. So that's a short answer.
Right.
Right.
Right. But if my life is horrible and I have no friends at work, scan me.
If you have no friends or family, we think the solution is that cool where you could literally go in the street and ask a stranger to do it.
Yeah.
As long as you can explain it right.
Right. Okay. Borrow a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were there any more?
I mean, the vest is a great example, and that is great. School uniform, yeah. Are there any other hard to fit categories, or maybe our attendees have a hard to fit category that they're wondering if you've experimented with it yet?
So we're in talks with the likes of AT&T, with the likes of MGM Grand. And of course, you know, we see one of the lower hanging fruits in that space is perhaps even the travel and entertainment sector, like airlines and et cetera, the hotel industry. Obviously, MGM, we were in a round of talks with them. These aren't as critical in terms of like body armor, but it's still, they are actually tourist facing, many of them. And so they face a lot of people every day. And so it does help from talking to people in the space. It does help in terms of if it fits, they feel good. And if they feel good, they perform at their highest level. And that's what we've heard across multiple partners. And so obviously, I know what you're alluding to. There's certain categories within the space that are more relevant to our technology than others. And we are very, very keen on working with any company, any partner in the space who wants to use innovation to improve, who wants to use data to become more efficient, who is looking for a market edge to make the relationship with clients more sticky, and quite frankly, who wants to be a market leader. I think it's one of those situations where eventually everybody will be doing it, because who doesn't want to become more efficient? But quite frankly, those who we've seen so far sort of work with us are the companies who really, really want that edge and really, really lean into data.
So what's it, I guess we'll allow a bit of a plug. What does it take to get started using your solution? Is there an optimal size universe of employees that this will work for? Or I guess you've worked with fashion brands where they don't know how many shoppers they're going to have that utilize it. So how do you answer that?
We'd like to think that there's a fit pain point, firstly. We'd like to think that, as I said before, the company has an issue with their logistics of their uniform process and wants to become more efficient with it. That doesn't necessarily have to be with this in all the way up to design. It could just be, as I said, becoming more efficient in getting product to employee. And they want to do that with all the supply chain issues and the logistical problems of remote work, etc. It creates new challenges. And so we have a technology now that is a mobile solution, as you suggested with self-mode, that one day as an employee will be able to do it on their own, just sitting by themselves. For now, they can have a second person doing it, and all that data is fed to the main board in the company, and the company makes that decision. That we want to work with companies who can envision that level of efficiency. So but in terms of from a practical standpoint, in terms of onboarding, it's quite simple. We engage, we brainstorm on scope of engagement. How deep do you want it? What product are you really trying to interact with in terms of our technology? And then at that point, we start to do our building out phase in terms of UX. We would probably build out the user experience for your staff based on what you want as a company. So it's very much interactive, very much a process, but it's a quick process, and it's white labeled for what you like, for what the company likes.
I was going to say, you made it sound rather consultative, so it's kind of a unique instance for each client or program. It's not just here's the platform and we turn it on your domain. Right.
Because AT&T will have different requirements. They'll have a different profile of a Point Blank, for example, who they're doing body armors. They're sending people out to do remote fittings all over the world. That's something that's different. Obviously, that's not happening with AT&T. They're doing more of a corporate structure. Everybody come in Tuesday to Friday and get fitted. So depending on what the process is, we build out the user experience. But it all leads back to the same thing, right? Using our data, using our learnings to help you become more efficient, save money, and grow.
Right. I also wanted to add, everything that Romel's saying might sound pretty complicated, and we have shown you a couple of visuals, but I kind of wanted to put faces behind this technology. I think you guys are probably maybe thinking, how can an algorithm do something that my eyes can do, or my hands can do, or my body can do? And that's because we have a super talented group of people who are building this technology. So for that, it starts with our founder and CEO, Hanif, who had the vision. And then from there, we have Dr. J, who got her PhD from Cornell University on body shape. And we have so many other people on the team, from 3D designers to technical designers with decades of experience. And so this algorithm essentially becomes like everyone's brains combined together that does all the hard work that people would have had to do on an individual basis. And that's how we're able to spit out such a powerful and such an accurate platform.
Shameless plug, but when we first started, our mantra was never have to try and close again. So we always had grandiose visions for what this might do. And now with the pandemic, and it's become from conceptual to the new necessary. Yeah. And so we feel really good about being ahead of that curve. And we're really excited to partner with, companies who want to stay ahead of that curve and become more efficient.
Yeah, well, really appreciate that, guys. I mean, we have in our industry, especially as you were pointing out during the pandemic, we've really been called upon as an industry to figure out, some sizing challenges that we didn't have before, and we've been in a rush to solve some of them. And we've had many companies that we are running test, pilot programs with, or some are coming out with their own, white labeled apps version of, products. And I know those are all areas that you're in your sandbox as well.
Sure.
But I was not familiar with the whole concept of the augmented reality and really doing a true 3D, scan of it, avatar, placing me in the metaverse, if you will. And so I really appreciate you coming on today and walking us through it. If anybody has further questions, otherwise I believe we walked through what Romel and Maya had planned for us today. Anybody else have questions, or do you have any final parting thoughts, either of you?
I will say, thank you. It's been a pleasure and an honor to not only be members of the NAUMD, firstly, so looking forward to that annual conference. We'll be there. We'll have a presence there.
Good.
Looking forward to meeting some other players in the space. But yeah, I would say, again, thank you for your time and the platform to be able to talk about, or, obviously we've had great press, but this is an area, this is an adjacent sort of area where we think our technology is absolutely applicable. Mm-hmm. And what we were here to do is we're here to educate, but we're here to help. It's not to preach on. We really want to grow with our partners, and that's why we modeled ourselves like that, where we're not telling you, here's the product, go use it. We're saying we have a core shell. This is the value of it. Now let's go build it together based on what your actual needs are.
Excellent.
And so that's how we want to partner, and we feel that's been a really powerful formula for us, and we continue to look for like-minded companies.
Beautiful. Well said, Romel. Thanks so much. Maya, you good?
Yeah, I was going to say thank you for the opportunity, and we're just really excited to continue learning from each other. I think there's always room to grow. There's always room to become more efficient, and that's where FitMatch really takes its pride. So I'm really excited that we have this partnership and we were able to have this conversation.
Wonderful. Thanks. Okay. Well, great. Ending on a positive note. Thanks again.